Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Excuse my slightly husky voice. I'm still getting over my flu or cold or whatever it was that knocked me for 6 this week, so pardon that. I hope you can still understand me and still hear me, and I hope that I don't dissolve into a coughing mess. So today I'm going to be trying out the new Laura Mercier Flawless Fusion Ultra Longwear Concealer. I thought it'd be really useful to pit it against the Tarte Shape Tape, because this is kind of what is, for most people, the holy grail of concealers. It's most people's favourite concealer. It's kind of the benchmark for great concealers. I find like now that I'm over 30, concealer is the one thing that I wouldn't say I have a holy grail item of. I have concealers I like, concealers that are good at certain things, but I don't have the perfect concealer that does everything. So I like the Tarte Shape Tape. It doesn't fully cover everything for me, and it is very drying and can be quite aging on my under eye area because it is that dry matte consistency, so it does kind of age my lines, I find, but the coverage is very good. It blends very well. You get a huge amount of product. This is actually the MAC Pro Longwear Concealer, which I loved and was my holy grail, or as close to, for a long time. Does not crease at all, does not age me, doesn't settle into my fine lines, but the coverage just isn't there, and I have to mix 2 shades, which is why it's in here. And then the Makeup Revolution, which is probably for me the closest I've come to a holy grail concealer. It sometimes creases a little on me throughout the day. The coverage is perfect. It's not as drying or as aging as the Tarte, but the size of this, it's only 3.4 mils. The Shape Tape is 10. Take that in. So it's like a third, and this has literally lasted me only a few weeks, and I've nearly run out. I'm like literally having to scrape the bottom of the tube at the moment, so that is very annoying. Yeah, and it does crease a little. It does age me a little throughout the day, so it's not perfect. Could it be better? Yes. And could it be much, much bigger? Yes. I have tried pretty much every concealer, high-end, drugstore, and in between, and I have yet to find a concealer that does not crease, does not age me, is not drying, and fully covers my dark circles. So I've been reading amazing things, and I hope that this Laura Mercier one is gonna be the one, is gonna be the holy grail concealer. First things first, shade range is really poor, and I don't understand. So the shades go in like 1N, 1C, etc. So there's a shade that's cool, neutral, and warm in each category. However, for some reason there does not seem to be a 1W. So there's a 1N, 1C, then it goes 2W, 2N, 2C, 3W, 3N, 3C. So warm, neutral, cool. I picked up the shade 2W after I saw Nicole Tanneberg's review of this. Now she looks to me much darker skinned, and she used the shade 2W, so I wanted to pick up 1W, but it doesn't exist. So that worries me, because obviously I am not the fairest of the fair. I'm like an NC25. People are a lot fairer than me and warm skinned, and I guess they're gonna have to use the neutral shade. They definitely don't go very deep either, so shade range is definitely an issue, but I have hope that there are more shades coming, because we're missing that 1W. I feel like maybe there's more shades coming, but then what's less than 1? Is there going to be a 0N, 0C? I don't know. It is expensive, and you do get less than the Shape Tape, but you do get more than the Makeup Revolution. So this is 7 mils versus 10. You also get a smaller one, so better for, you know, down the nose and more precision concealing, as opposed to the Shape Tape, which we know has the huge, ginormous doe foot. I really love the sound of this one because it says that it is hydrating, 12-hour wear. It also says it has a blurring effect on fine lines and wrinkles. So it sounds amazing. It's also supposed to have a much more natural, not matte, not drying finish. So here are some helpful swatches if you're not sure on your shade. The top is Tarte Shape Tape in light medium. The middle is the Laura Mercier in 2W, and at the bottom is the Makeup Revolution in C5. So as I said, high hopes that this is going to be the answer to all my concealer prayers. So without further ado, let's get them on my face. Okay, so nice and zoomed in, and I've turned my lights really down so you can really see what's going on. So you can see that I have quite a bit of discoloration or like dark circles under my eyes to cover up. So I will just use the Laura Mercier everywhere other than under my eyes because it's very hard to do half a nose. But yeah, so I'm going to start off with the Tarte Shape Tape. It's always a little tricky to say. So I'm just going to go in as I normally would under my eyes. I like to really focus this on the inner corner and then blend out because it is quite thick. So I don't want to, like, you know, cover the whole of my face in it. And just to FYI, I've got cream contour on and foundation and no powder or anything that might upset the concealer. Okay, and I'm going to set that straight away with my Patrick's powder. Okay, so now, can't speak. So now for the Laura Mercier, and I'm going to go in everywhere else with this one. And I am going to use this more like I would most concealers because this isn't as thick, so I can use more. It definitely feels a totally different consistency to the Tarte. Like, you can tell it is a cream. And it's definitely a lot more like of a hydrating, moisturising finish. It's definitely not like it is a radiant finish. You can see that, which I think really helps. That although it might not be as full coverage as the Tarte, because of that sort of light reflecting finish, that sort of luminosity sort of reflects light away from the darkness. Okay, so it's pretty good coverage. I might just try and build it up a little bit, just there, to see if we can get it to a similar coverage to the Shape Tape. Okay, so I think that's quite similar now, just using that little bit. Because the Shape Tape, God, such a mouthful to say, is so much thicker, you are using a lot more because it's very hard to control. Both blended out really, really well. I like the shades of both, and although I thought that this shade was going to be a bit dark for me, it has really brightened up my under eye, and I think that's probably because it is that sort of radiant finish. So I'm going to put this everywhere else now that I would normally. Yeah, that shade's absolutely perfect. Doop. Blending out like a dream, I will say that. Very easy to blend. The Shape Tape is very easy to blend as well. Setting the rest of those areas with my same Patrick's powder. Laura Mercier definitely has a noticeable paint-like smell, just a heads up. It's not really bothering me, but I'm just getting little whiffs of it, and I was thinking, what's that? And I tried to smell my sponge, so I thought maybe it's what I wash my sponge with, but it's definitely the concealer. It has that sort of paint-like, very paint-like smell. Let's get a real zoom and turn these lights right down. Neither side has perfect coverage. You can just see on both sides, this little area here, which is my darkest area, is still just poking through a little bit. It's going to be very hard for you guys to see, so I guess you're just going to have to kind of trust me in what I'm saying. So this side definitely looks brighter, more hydrated, and feels so lightweight. It really feels hydrated and light. So if you struggle with the Tarte feeling heavy and cakey and dry, I definitely think you'll prefer this one. As far as the creasing, neither side has yet got any creasing to speak of. Both sides have sunk into my lines, but very slightly and not in a creasy way. I'll just show you there. I'd say that the Tarte is kind of making my lines look deeper, but maybe the Laura Mercier has soaked into more lines, so it's very, very much of a muchness. I prefer the look of this side, as in it looks hydrated, it looks radiant, whereas this side does look dry. And in these lines right under my lash line, both sides is kind of settled in there a little, but on the Shape Tape side, it's kind of dried out like this whole area all down here as well, whereas this side, the only problems I'm really having is just these lines right under my eye. But I would say that both sides kind of look a little older than with no concealer, but I think that is what you come to expect. Once you've got, you know, your fine lines under your eye, adding anything is going to make that happen. Going back at a little bit more distance so you can kind of see the whole face, and I can kind of examine. So I definitely feel like this side, the Laura Mercier side, definitely looks more hydrated, and with the lights up and looking, it looks much more bright and is really helping reflect away from that area that wasn't really full cover. Tarte Shape Tape I definitely think has more coverage, although I perhaps used more of that. I did try to build up the Laura Mercier to match. I think immediately right now they're both looking really good in my lines. Both have kind of, you know, got into my lines like every concealer does. Once you have, you know, lots of fine lines under your eyes like I do, you'll find that concealers, they are going to go in there, but they haven't creased and they haven't made them look way worse like some concealers do, and it's not noticeable. If I zoom right in with a mirror and stare and go like this, I can see the concealer in my lines, but if you were stood a few inches away from my face and I wasn't going, you wouldn't be able to see it. Definitely feel this side looks older and more dehydrated in comparison to this side. I really like the brightening effect this has given me. I think that's really noticeable. Even on camera, I think you'll probably be able to see that. So yeah, I'm just gonna finish the rest of my makeup and go about my business for like a couple of hours and just see how they settle in, because I generally find those first couple hours is when you see concealers start to really go into the lines, really crease, really separate or move, or anything that's funny that's going to happen. It will happen over the next few hours. So I'm going to finish off my makeup and I'll come back in a few hours and we'll see the final settled result. Hi guys, we are back. I have given these concealers a few hours. I've done the rest of my makeup, I've done some more filming, and we are now back to see if anything funky has happened. So I've got you nice and close and I've turned my lights down nice and low. So hopefully what I'm seeing is going to come across to what you're seeing. So there is definitely like more settling into lines on the Laura Mercier side. Coverage I think is very comparable, very close. The Tarte Shape Tape definitely looks like less liney, but definitely looks drier. And I'm just going to stretch my face out now so you can see what's going on in my lines. So you can see that the Laura Mercier has definitely settled into my lines more dramatically than the Shape Tape. Neither looks bad. I definitely say they are both as good as it gets on me personally, on my lines, on my under eye area. This is like as good as it gets. Is it perfect? No. But yeah, this is about as good as it gets. So the Shape Tape has definitely settled less into my lines, but is definitely looking heavier, drier, and feeling heavier and drier as well. This side feels lovely, hydrated, light, in fact weightless. I think really it's going to come down to personal preference as to which you kind of prefer. I think when you zoom out a little bit, that the Laura Mercier really has that light reflecting property where it really brightens your under eye and really reflects the light, which is very flattering. The Tarte Shape Tape is a very flat matte, so that is sometimes a bit unflattering. So as always, I will let you know in the comments if anything else weird or strange happened throughout the rest of the day into the evening. I will keep you posted down below. But for me, I really like the Laura Mercier. I'm a bit disappointed as to how much it's settled into my lines, but at the same time, from here, I think it looks brilliant. It looks really nice. It's just when you get really up close that it is in my lines. But I think that's just something we have to accept. Once we get like over 30 and we're not having Botox, that is going to happen. There's lines there. you know, creams and liquids are gonna get in them. So I'm not gonna be too harsh on it, and I think I really just like the feel of it. It feels so light and so hydrated, and I think it looks really pretty. I really like the hydrated sort of radiant finish of it, and it feels just lovely versus the Shape Tape, which does feel very heavy and drying. I'm interested to play around with it a bit more, maybe use a bit less and not build it up like I did today, maybe use a bit more and see what coverage we can build. I really like it. I like the shade, I like the brightness, I like the feel of it, and it is definitely comparable as far as coverage and as far as finish and the under eye area to the Tarte. As far as creasing, very, very close. I think the Tarte is just edging it as far as the soaking into my lines category. Overall, I think I prefer the Laura Mercier, although it is less for your money, so that's something to consider. Is obviously you do get a huge amount of product with the Tarte, and it does last a very long time. But if you are in love with the Tarte but it's too drying and too heavy for you, this is going to be a really good option. If you are looking for a drugstore affordable version that is kind of a cross between the two, then definitely check out the Makeup Revolution, because it is very good value for money, even though it is such a small amount. If you think of it, if it was 6 mils, around the same as the Laura Mercier, that's still £8. So as always, I hope you found this video helpful. I hope I did not cough too much, and I hope you can hear and understand what I'm saying with my husky voice. If you did find it helpful, you like this video, please like and subscribe before you go so we can see each other again. Otherwise, take care for now. Bye 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 bye.